Chosen one, the final warning just dropped, and this moment was not placed in your path by chance. There is no randomness in the way your eyes found these words, or in the timing that pulled your attention here. Something unseen has been arranging this encounter long before you were consciously aware of it. This is not just another message drifting past your life. This is not another voice competing for your focus. This is an alert, quiet but firm, released at the final stage of a process that has been unfolding beyond what you can see. You are being addressed now because awareness is required. Not panic, not fear, awareness. You've already felt the change moving underneath the surface of your life. The subtle restlessness, the sense that something familiar is dissolving even if nothing obvious has changed yet. That feeling isn't anxiety, it's recognition. Your spirit detected the shift before your mind had language for it. This warning is not announcing loss. It is announcing alignment. Something is closing because it has finished its purpose. Something else is opening because it is now safe for you to step into it. Heaven does not interrupt casually. When a message arrives with this kind of weight, it is because remaining unaware would cost you timing. This is the moment where drifting ends and intention begins, where autopilot shuts off and consciousness takes over. You were not meant to rush past this. You were meant to stop, listen, and realize that you are standing at the edge of a transition that carries your name on it. This moment is not designed for passive listening. It is not meant to sit quietly in the background while life continues unchanged. You are being invited into participation, not performance, not ritual, but conscious engagement. That is why staying present matters, not because of obligation, but because this message unfolds in layers, and each layer is meant to meet you at a deeper level of readiness. When you are asked to respond, to write 777, to leave a declaration, understand this clearly. It is not superstition, and it is not symbolic theater. It is alignment. It is agreement. In the unseen realm, response carries weight. Awareness without response stays dormant, but awareness paired with intention creates movement. You are not being asked to prove belief or convince anyone else. You are being invited to signal readiness, to mark the moment when you stop observing the shift and begin moving with it. Too many people hear divine signals and treat them like content, something to consume, feel briefly, and scroll past. This is not meant to be consumed. It is meant to be received. When you engage, you are declaring that you are awake, attentive, and willing to respond when direction comes. That willingness activates the next phase. Not later. Now. Stay with this moment. Let it work internally before anything changes externally. Because what follows is not triggered by curiosity. It is activated by agreement. There are seasons when God whispers, when guidance arrives quietly through intuition, patterns, and subtle nudges that only make sense once you look back. You have lived through those seasons. You learned how to listen in silence, how to recognize meaning in repetition, how to follow a feeling you couldn't fully explain. But this moment is different. This is not a whisper. This is a thunderclap, a decisive interruption meant to cut through everything that has lingered unresolved. When the tone shifts like this, it is because subtlety has completed its work. What is happening now requires clarity, not suggestion, direction, not hints. Destiny is being rearranged, not introduced, rearranged. Pieces that have been quietly shifting behind the scenes are now locking into place. That is why the energy feels heavier, sharper, more focused. This message is not meant to soothe you, it is meant to position you. You may have already noticed the signs: connections weakening, old interests fading, doors closing without explanation. That wasn't chaos, that was preparation. The tone has changed because the season has changed. What once required patience now requires response. Thunder does not negotiate. It announces arrival, and what is arriving now cannot be reversed. You did not arrive at this moment without a history, and your history has not been easy. You've endured betrayal that came from unexpected places, delays that stretched longer than you thought you could tolerate, silence that made you question whether your endurance even mattered. But none of it was wasted. Every delay sharpened your discernment. Every closed door strengthened your resilience. Every season of confusion increased your capacity. What felt like abandonment was actually insulation. What felt like stagnation was divine shaping. God did not rush you, because what you are stepping into now requires depth, stability, and internal strength. You were not being punished by the waiting. You were being prepared by it. The silence was not absence. It was a pause before command. And the fact that you are still here, still open, still listening, speaks volumes. You didn't quit. You didn't harden. You didn't lose your sensitivity. Pain did not disqualify you. It refined you. And now you are being shown that everything you endured positioned you for this moment of clarity. Now listen carefully. The command has been released. This is not preparation for later. This is instruction for now. Move. Wake up. Respond. The final warning is not a threat, it is alignment. You are standing at a crossroads, and the next decision you make carries uncommon weight. One direction leads forward into breakthrough. The other leads back into cycles you have already outgrown. And God does not want you looping anymore. That is why hesitation feels heavy. That is why delay feels uncomfortable. Momentum has been released, and momentum demands response. You do not need full understanding to move. You need obedience. You do not need every answer to take the next step. This is the point of no return, not because you are trapped, but because you are ready. The season of preparation has ended. The season of execution has begun. The command has been spoken, and it is echoing through every area of your life. What you do now determines how quickly alignment follows. The cycle ends here, if you move. There have been battles you never saw, and that truth is becoming clearer now. While you were moving through your days, unaware of the full picture, strategies were unfolding behind the scenes. Some meant to slow you, some meant to confuse you, some meant to quietly remove you from alignment without you realizing it. That uneasy feeling you couldn't explain, the moments where something felt off without evidence, the instincts you ignored at first but later understood, those were not paranoia, they were perception. God has been revealing what was hidden, not to overwhelm you, but to validate what your spirit already knew. There were conversations you were not invited into, plans formed without your consent, and subtle opposition masked as coincidence. Yet despite all of it, you were preserved. Paths shifted at the last second. Delays redirected you away from traps. Situations that could have ended badly dissolved before they fully formed. You were protected from accidents you never knew were possible, from failures that would have derailed your confidence, from alliances that looked promising but carried sabotage beneath the surface. The final warning is not just about what lies ahead, it is also about what was stopped, about the hands that never reached you, about the doors that never opened, because what waited behind them was not meant to touch your future. Heaven has been active on your behalf, intercepting what you could not see and neutralizing what you could not fight. Now that exposure has occurred, instruction follows. Not panic, not retaliation, alignment. The protection phase has transitioned into the guidance phase. What once required shielding now requires awareness, and that awareness is being entrusted to you because you are strong enough to carry it without fear. You have outgrown places, roles, and identities that once felt like home, and that realization may feel unsettling at first. What once provided safety now feels restrictive. What once fit comfortably now feels misaligned. This is not loss. This is expansion. You are not being stripped of who you are. You are being released from who you no longer need to be. The version of you that survived, adapted, and endured has completed its assignment. That identity was necessary for the season you were in, but it cannot carry you into the season ahead. Familiar environments no longer resonate because your capacity has changed. Old expectations feel heavy because your purpose has evolved. This is the separation phase, and it is not punishment. It is precision. The tests you faced were not endless. They were measured, and they are now complete. The door behind you is closing not to trap you, but to prevent you from returning to cycles that no longer teach you anything. There is no more revisiting for clarity, no more repeating for confirmation. You already know, and ahead of you, a new door stands open. Not dramatic, not forced, but undeniable. This next space requires a clearer version of you, one that moves with intention rather than habit, one that listens inwardly rather than seeking validation outwardly. Separation always feels quiet before it feels powerful, but it is in this quiet that identity solidifies. You are stepping forward lighter, clearer, and no longer defined by what you had to survive. Understand this clearly. The intent behind this warning is not fear. It never was. God is not trying to alarm you or pressure you into reaction. This is preservation. You are being spared from misalignment, from distraction dressed as urgency, from people and opportunities that look important but carry no lasting value. Not everything that demands your attention deserves your energy, and not everything that feels urgent is aligned with your purpose. This warning arrived to protect your focus, to redirect your steps away from paths that would drain rather than fulfill you. You are being guided away from false significance and toward lasting substance, away from noise and toward clarity. God is not rushing you into chaos. He is refining your direction. The aim is not survival anymore. It is wholeness, wisdom, sustainable abundance. You are being preserved for something that lasts beyond temporary gain. That is why certain distractions are losing their appeal, why certain relationships feel misaligned, why the desire to prove yourself is fading. Preservation doesn't always feel gentle, but it is always intentional. You are being spared from detours that would cost you time, energy, and alignment. And this protection is not limiting you. It is focusing you, narrowing your path so that what belongs to you can reach you without interference. The outcome has already been decided. That is not arrogance, it is truth. What remains is alignment. You are not responsible for controlling how everything unfolds. You are responsible for positioning yourself correctly within it. Alignment is the bridge between promise and manifestation. And alignment does not require full understanding. It requires trust. Obedience often precedes clarity, not the other way around. You are being asked to move without needing every explanation, to say yes before the entire map is revealed. Your dreams have been under divine observation. Your name has not been forgotten or misplaced. While others speculated, doubted, or dismissed your path, heaven continued to account for every step you took in faith. This is not about effort anymore. It is about agreement. Agreement with timing. Agreement with direction. Agreement with what you already know deep down. When alignment locks in, resistance loses its power. What once felt complicated begins to converge. Pieces align without force. This is not coincidence, this is convergence. Everything is moving toward a single point of fulfillment, and your role is not to manage it, but to stay aligned with it. This timing is not random. The next stretch, especially the next 24 hours, carries unusual significance, not because something dramatic must happen externally, but because something decisive is happening internally. This message reached you now because readiness has been confirmed. You are not being prepared anymore. You are being activated. The gifts you've carried quietly, the ideas you postponed, the instincts you kept second-guessing, this is the moment to bring them into motion. Not perfectly, intentionally. Heaven records unseen obedience long before the world notices visible results. Small steps taken now carry amplified impact. Delay is no longer neutral. It dilutes momentum. This is the emotional peak of readiness, the moment where clarity meets courage. You may feel the intensity rising, not as pressure, but as focus. This is alignment compressing time. What once felt distant is now immediate, and the activation doesn't require noise or announcement. It requires movement. Quiet, deliberate, faithful movement. You are ready, and the timing proves it. What is happening within you right now will not be immediately visible to others, and that is intentional. This phase is not meant for public validation or external applause. It is a quiet recalibration, a subtle internal shift that precedes outward change. While the world around you continues at its usual pace, something inside you has slowed down, not from exhaustion, but from clarity. You are no longer reacting, you are discerning. You are no longer chasing signs, you are recognizing alignment. Others may still see you as unchanged, unaware that decisions are forming beneath the surface that will soon redefine your direction entirely. This is how real transformation begins. Not loudly, not dramatically, but privately, where intention solidifies before action ever announces itself. God often moves in silence first, because silence creates stability. What grows quietly develops deeper roots. And when the shift becomes visible, it will appear sudden to those watching, even though you know it was forming patiently all along. Do not mistake invisibility for stagnation. This is incubation, and incubation always precedes emergence. You are entering a phase where discernment matters more than emotion. Feelings still exist, but they no longer lead. You are learning to pause before responding, to observe before deciding, to listen beneath the surface of what is being said. This is maturity activating. Emotional reactions once kept you in cycles, responding too quickly, trusting too soon, committing without clarity. That season has passed. You are no longer driven by urgency or fear of missing out. You are guided by inner confirmation. Discernment sharpens perception. It allows you to recognize what aligns without needing explanation. This is why certain opportunities no longer excite you, even if they look impressive. Why certain people feel misaligned, even if they mean well. Discernment does not reject harshly. It simply redirects quietly. You are not becoming colder, you are becoming clearer. And clarity brings peace, even when decisions are difficult. This level of discernment is necessary for what lies ahead, because what you are stepping into requires wisdom more than enthusiasm. There were moments when it seemed like imbalance was winning, when effort went unnoticed, honesty went unrewarded, and integrity appeared to cost more than it returned. You questioned whether fairness still existed in the unseen order of things. But justice delayed is not justice denied. It is justice preserved until timing aligns. What is happening now is rebalancing, not through confrontation or exposure, but through repositioning. You are being moved into environments where your value is recognized naturally, where effort multiplies rather than drains, where contribution is met with respect. This is not about revenge. It is about restoration. The scales are adjusting quietly. Situations that once disadvantaged you are losing influence. What once blocked your progress is being bypassed entirely. You are not being compensated through drama. You are being compensated through elevation. This is how divine justice often operates, not by revisiting the past, but by redefining the future. As alignment deepens, the path ahead narrows. Fewer options, clearer direction, less distraction. This narrowing is not limitation, it is refinement. Wide paths invite confusion. Narrow paths invite precision. You are being guided away from scattered effort and toward focused movement. This is why multitasking feels exhausting now. Why spreading yourself thin no longer satisfies. Your energy is being concentrated because impact requires focus. The narrow path demands trust because it doesn't offer constant reassurance. It requires you to move forward even when alternatives look tempting. But this path carries momentum. Once you step fully onto it, resistance fades. Progress accelerates. What once required force begins to flow. Trust grows stronger, not because everything is explained, but because every step confirms alignment. You are learning to trust the direction, even when the destination remains partially unseen. That trust is strengthening you more than certainty ever could. Before the next phase fully opens, something must be completed emotionally, not revisited. Completed. Release without resentment. You are not meant to carry unresolved weight into a season that requires clarity. Holding on to bitterness, regret, or the need for closure will only slow what is ready to move forward. Closure does not always come through explanation. Sometimes it comes through understanding that you no longer need it. You are being invited to let go, not because what happened didn't matter, but because it no longer defines your direction. Forgiveness here is not approval, it is freedom. Freedom from emotional loops. Freedom from replaying conversations that cannot be changed. Freedom from carrying responsibility that was never yours to begin with. Emotional completion clears space, and in that space, new capacity forms. You are not losing anything by releasing. You are gaining momentum. This is the threshold, the moment between knowing and doing, between preparation and embodiment. You have received enough confirmation, enough insight, enough internal alignment. Now comes embodiment, living as the person you have been becoming. Not later, not once everything is perfect. Now. This does not require dramatic gestures or sudden life overhauls. It requires consistency, integrity, small decisions made from clarity rather than habit. When you step fully into this alignment, life responds differently. Not instantly, but unmistakably. Opportunities shift. Conversations change. Resistance weakens. You feel lighter, not because everything is easy, but because everything is honest. This is where momentum locks in, where alignment becomes identity rather than effort. You are no longer waiting for permission. You are moving with intention. And once this threshold is crossed, you will not desire to return to the version of life you've outgrown. Because what lies ahead is not just better, it is truer. From this point forward, the energy of your life begins to change subtly but permanently. You are no longer living in anticipation, waiting for something to arrive before you allow yourself to feel settled. Instead, you are learning to live from alignment, where peace is not postponed and confidence is not conditional. Anticipation always places fulfillment in the future, but alignment anchors it in the present. You stop asking, "When will it happen?" and start asking, "How do I move today in agreement with what I already know?" This shift is quiet but powerful. It changes how you speak, how you choose, how you invest your time. You are no longer preparing endlessly. You are participating fully. And when you live from alignment, outcomes stop feeling distant. They begin to feel inevitable, not because you force them, but because you are no longer resisting them internally. There is a new kind of strength settling into you now, and it does not announce itself. It is the strength of stillness, the ability to remain grounded even when things move quickly around you, the ability to hold your position without explaining yourself. This is authority without noise. You no longer feel the urge to convince, defend, or perform. You trust what you carry, and that trust changes how others respond to you. Conversations feel different. Dynamics subtly shift. People sense when someone is no longer seeking approval. Stillness does not mean passivity. It means control. Control over your reactions, your focus, your energy. This kind of strength cannot be imitated, only developed. And you have developed it through patience, restraint, and self-awareness. What once provoked you no longer pulls you off center. What once distracted you no longer holds power. This is composure earned, not learned. Momentum is building now, not in bursts, but in continuity. You may notice small confirmations appearing more frequently, timely conversations, unexpected clarity, opportunities aligning without struggle. These are not coincidences. They are signals of flow. Divine momentum feels different from forced progress. It doesn't exhaust you. It energizes you. It doesn't demand constant effort. It responds to consistency. You are learning how to recognize this momentum and move with it rather than against it. When something aligns, it feels natural to say yes. When something resists repeatedly, you no longer push, you pause. This discernment keeps momentum intact. You are not meant to sprint blindly. You are meant to move steadily, attentively, in rhythm with what is opening. And as you do, the path continues to reveal itself step by step. Awareness brings responsibility, and you are now in a stewardship phase. What you've been shown is not meant to inflate ego or create pressure. It is meant to guide decisions. You are being trusted with insight because you have learned how to handle it without fear. This stewardship shows up in how you manage your time, your words, your commitments. You choose more carefully now. You protect your focus. You honor your energy, not out of self-interest, but out of respect for alignment. When awareness is stewarded well, it multiplies. More clarity comes, more direction unfolds. But when awareness is ignored, it fades. You are choosing to honor what you've been given, and that choice keeps the channel open. What once felt like a transition is beginning to feel like a new normal. The emotional turbulence settles. The inner questioning quiets. You feel more stable, not because everything is resolved, but because you trust yourself to respond well to whatever unfolds. This stability is not boredom, it is grounding. You are no longer defined by extremes. High highs and low lows give way to steadiness, and in that steadiness, productivity increases, creativity deepens, relationships become more authentic. You are no longer trying to escape your life, you are inhabiting it fully. This is what happens when alignment becomes habitual. You stop bracing for disruption and start building with intention. This is the point where looking back loses its appeal. Not because the past no longer matters, but because it no longer calls you. You carry the lessons without carrying the weight. You remember without reliving. And with that, forward movement becomes clean and unburdened. You are not running from anything. You are walking towards something. Purpose no longer feels abstract. It feels practical, lived, expressed daily through choices that reflect who you have become. This is not an ending. It is a continuation, but one that begins from a higher level of awareness. You move forward now with clarity, steadiness, and trust, fully present, fully aligned, and no longer divided between who you were and who you are becoming.